Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Stanley County Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you all for coming out tonight and joining us. I'd like to ask, first off, if Commissioner Allman would ask the invocation and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this time together that we're having, God. Thank you for our country. Thank you for the freedom that you've given us, Lord. God, I lift up our county to you. I lift up my fellow commissioners and our leaders in this county and our country and our president. God, I pray for our county employees, our first responders, and our police officers, sheriff's deputies, and everybody who's working hard for our county. God, I pray that you bless them and bless our community and be with us. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Morgan?
I'd like to add a 1B for the resolution.
All right. Does everybody have a copy of the resolution? We're going to add that as 1B. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Get a motion to accept as amended.
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Allman to accept the agenda as amended. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Furr. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. All right, item number 1 tonight will be a Cdbg grant application public hearing. We will hold the public hearing and then we will address the resolution. Presenter this evening for that is Mr. James Luster.
I want to thank the county for allowing me to speak with you this evening. This is the second of 2 required public hearings for the county's Community Development Block Grant Program. This is a neighborhood revitalization program. Again, it's offered through the state of North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division. The state is offering approximately $10 million this year statewide, and the maximum grant amount this year is $750,000 for community development block grant activities. The county is considering applying for housing rehabilitation, housing renovation activities, and the county is applying for the maximum amount of $750,000 this year. Eligible applicants include elderly over 62, low and moderate income families, and owner-occupied individuals. This will be a 30-month project if awarded, and we are looking at taking applications through July 15th. The application itself is due on July the 27th. And at this point, we'll address any questions or from the public or the county.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Luster? If not, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anybody that's here to speak for or against a grant application? For or against? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Any questions from the board? If not, what's the pleasure of the board? I'm sorry, on the resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Morgan.
I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
Motion from Commissioner Morgan to approve the presented resolution. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Allman. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. We appreciate you coming out tonight, Mr. Luster.
Yeah, thank you.
All the way from Charlotte?
All the way.
Item number 2 tonight is an Indy Volunteer Fire Department tax-exempt financing and public hearing. Presenter is County Manager Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is for Indy Volunteer Fire Department. They're going to refinance an existing loan and expand that loan to purchase an additional fire apparatus. And so there's a required public hearing since it's tax-exempt financing through URI Bank. I believe the loan's 2.6%. The loan term is from January of 2021 through July of 2035 if they went the full term. And I think the value of that loan was roughly $690,000. Just asked the board to open a public hearing. That public hearing is required because of the tax-exempt financing by the volunteer fire departments. Have the poll the public hearing, and then that's the only action that's required by the board other than the approval of if there's a resolution included in your packet. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I know there's a Mr. Robinson with the Indy Volunteer Fire Department is here tonight if there are any questions.
Mr. Long?
Mr. Lucas said 690, our record shows 691.
That's correct. That's correct.
So just to clarify, that is $691,000 is the total amount of the loan in question. Are there any questions from board members?
What was the percentage new loan?
What was the percentage? 2.6, I believe you said?
%.
And that's a reduction from the other.
Correct.
Mr. Robinson, what was that reduction? What was the original loan? 3.5, okay. So from 3.5 to 2.6. Any other questions from board members? If not, I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anybody here to speak for or against the tax-exempt financing? For or against? Declare the public hearing closed. There is an attached resolution in the agenda pack.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the attached resolution.
A motion from Commissioner Allman to approve the resolution, a second from Commissioner Barbie. Is there any other discussion on the resolution itself? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 3 will be a public hearing on economic development. Presenter, Ms. Candace Louder.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to come to you before you tonight on behalf of the Economic Development Commission to request your support for a business development grant of 60% for 6 years on an expansion project by an existing manufacturer of commercial paper products located in the town of Oakboro. This expansion will create approximately 26 new jobs and result in new investment of approximately $8.5 million, of which $500,000 is real property improvements and $8 million is machinery and equipment. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for the public hearing.
Any questions for Ms. Louder from the board? Not, I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anybody here to speak for or against the Economic Development Incentive Grant? For or against? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Commissioner Furr, sorry.
make a motion we accept it, economic development incentive grant as presented.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Furr and a second by Commissioner Morgan to accept the property tax incentive grant of 60% for a period of 6 years. All those in, is there any discussion? Sorry. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Item number 4 tonight is going to be appointments and reappointments to the Region F Aging Advisory Committee. Presenter is going to be Miss Becky Weemhoff.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Hope you had a good 4th. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. We have some appointments and reappointments that are needed for our Region F Aging Advisory Board. Now, we call that RFAC. And every county in the 9-county COG region has 4 positions that are on this committee, 3 delegates and 1 alternate. In Stanley County, 2 of our delegates are up for, their term is expiring, and they have indicated they wish to be reappointed, and that's Janice Abernathy and Dr. Joan Udy. The 3rd delegate was held by Bill Rigsby, and he is asked to come off this because he has other volunteer opportunities and that in the county, and so certainly we understand that. At the time that the agenda item was written, Jim Bernanke, who was an alternate on this committee, agreed to move into Bill Rigsby's delegate position. As of late last week, I heard from Jim Bernanke, and he and his wife will be moving out of town. They put their house on the market. It sold rather quickly, and they will be moved. Excuse me. They'll probably be moving to Cabarrus County. Actually, they close on this house here in August. So that left a delegate position open. On your agenda, I had mentioned Nicole Ashton. She was had filled a volunteer application out and had indicated an interest to being on the RFAC committee. I communicated with her, and she would be very, very willing to be a delegate on this committee. Fortunately, she works in Charlotte, and so she's familiar where the meetings are held. She wants to know more about the county, and that's why she is interested in serving on some different committees. And as one of her last emails to me was, I am someone who wants to know more about the county, but I have an aging parent, and I plan to retire here. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Weemhoff?
Mr. Chairman, I do. Ms. Weemhoff,
Yes,
is Nicole, does she not live here?
she does.
She lives in the county.
Yeah. I believe she moved from Charlotte here, but no, she commutes. Her address should be on the volunteer application, I believe. I didn't bring that with me, I'm sorry. Okay, so it is, okay.
Do you have any other prospects that might be willing to serve since Pastor
Yeah,
Bernanke?
I understand. I asked Tyler late this afternoon. She has gotten no volunteer applications for that committee.
Possibility you could talk with your senior service members and see if anybody would be interested.
I could now, if that will still leave us one position that's not filled, and that would be the alternate position. If Nicole moves into a delegate, or even if she doesn't, that still leaves me one position still vacant.
I know when we advertised something recently, we got some response from it on the internet, Facebook or somewhere. I would love for you to ask your active members of the senior center who might be interested in this, and maybe bring it back at a later date. Go ahead and approve Dr. Joan and Janice Abernathy to their terms, but would like to see what other citizens that reside and pay taxes here might be interested. So I'd like to make a motion, Dr. Joan and Janice Abernathy be appointed, but the other 2 be tabled until we see if there's further applications.
All right, a motion to approve Dr. Joan Udi and Janice Abernathy to the delegate positions as presented. And also included in that is to table the other two alternate positions
Okay.
until a later date. Is there a second to that? A second from Commissioner Allman. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you, Ms. Wingwall.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
That's okay.
you got me again. Approval of Stanley County's fiscal year 2021 aging funding plan. Again, Ms. Wingwall.
Right. I'm just doing as much as I can on one night, aren't I? This time every year, I am presenting to you our aging funding plan for the current fiscal year. The aging funding plan is made up of the Home and Community Care Block Grant funds, and these are the funds that come to Stanley County that fund the 7 aging programs that we have at the Senior Services Department. Briefly, it's in-home aid, level 1 and 2, congregate meals, home delivered meals, general transportation, medical transportation, and senior center operations that funds the social worker there. This year, for FY 2021, we are anticipating receiving $448,582 in HCCBG funds. This is the same level of funding as it was for FY 19 and 20, and that's simply because Central Carolina does not know what our funding will be, and I actually think they and the state are just still busy with COVID and really haven't had a lot of time. But in a conference call with the aging administrator last week, she indicated that everything she's hearing is that the funding should be about the same. But as is required, our Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee met. Actually, they met by email, sorry. And they voted on the allocations to the 7 different aging programs. They even developed a contingency plan and voted on that in case our funding is more or less than what has been indicated. So I respectfully request that the FY 2021 Aging Funding Plan for Stanley County for $448,582 be approved and that these funds be adopted into the FY 2021 county budget.
Any questions for Ms. Wingwall?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question, and
Okay.
I'm okay with the budget that you're presenting, but I know part of it is for the Meals on Wheels.
It is.
The food service.
It is.
And I remember last year, the competitive bid with Golden Corral and several other folks.
Right.
How is Golden Corral performing their contract?
Yeah, it is going well. Actually, we're starting a 2-year bid with them. So it will be this time next year, or way before this time next year, that we will be presenting again. What has been nice is that whenever COVID hit, the meal program continued on. We had to do things differently. We couldn't bring congregate folks into the meal site. It was basically a grab and go. So we went to grab and go 3 times a week, and then we eventually went to frozen meals, and we did 5 frozen meals a week, and then eventually went to 7. It took a big operation to be able to not only do the number of meals that we were having to put out every Monday, basically about 500 to 700 meals, okay? My understanding is that they also got contracts for other counties during this time who were doing frozen meals, so they put out a lot of meals. In fact, their restaurant in Lexington, half of it they converted into a staging area for all these meals that they were doing. So it's worked out well. We would have struggled if we had had a caterer that couldn't accommodate so many meals. And we have like 130, 140 home delivery meal clients every day. And if you multiply that times 7, it's what, over 1,000 meals? I'm not sure my math is right standing up here, but that was a lot of meals to have to be prepared and to be brought here on Monday morning to be issued. Does that answer your question?
It does, but it's brought another question.
Okay.
Frozen meals.
Yep.
Is that like you deliver a frozen meal to a recipient and they take it and put it in their oven and have to heat it up or microwave or?
They're in microwave containers, yes. There's 7 meals, or in one case it was 5 for a while. Yep, they put the meals in their freezer and they get out 1 meal a day. They could eat 3 meals a day if they wanted to. And you know what, at times we sort of struggled having volunteers who wanted to come out and deliver, but people stepped up. I'm not going to mention the groups, but they really did, because I know I would not mention all of them. But we also had to consider the volunteers who were delivering the meals too. Yep.
Your volunteers,
Yes.
are they obligated to deliver every day the meals are delivered, or do they
Usually,
just say what they want?
They normally, under normal times, they deliver once a month, maybe twice a month. But during the COVID part and whenever we kept running, when things were shut down, some of them delivered every week, if not a couple times a week. Yep.
And I guess anybody that's interested in volunteering to deliver meals, they need to see you.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Ms. Wimhoff, I just have one question.
Okay.
And I think you kind of alluded to it, but I just wanted to clarify. When we vote on this budget, it is still contingent on you receiving the grant? Or are we bound, is the county bound to this $448,000?
You're bound. I mean, this is what,
We're approving the plan, but if the
Yeah.
funding doesn't come, we
Oh,
would
yeah.
make cuts to our budget. We wouldn't do all these programs. The county wouldn't have to come put in county dollars to supplement that.
That's right.
You may elect to put some county money in if you didn't want these services to go.
Right.
But you're not bound.
We're not making that decision tonight.
No, you've already
Okay.
approved, you've actually already approved this revenue as part of your overall budget. Now you're
Okay.
approving the plan of how they're going to allocate this funding.
Okay.
At the local level per the regulations that the state has. But if this funding didn't come, there's nothing that says you have to backfill it with county money.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? No, what's the pleasure of the board? Motion from Commissioner Barbie to approve the budget as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Lawhon. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6 on tonight's agenda, Library Board of Trustees appointments. Presenter is going to be Ms. Hollis, the Library Director.
Good evening, Chairman and Board. Thank you for the time this evening. We have 2 positions on our Library Board of Trustees that we need to address tonight. This is our advisory board. Our terms expire in the end of June. We don't have meetings in July, which is why I wasn't here earlier. So first of all, we have one term that's expiring. That's Shirley Hatley. She is our representative from the Locust area, and she is happy to be reappointed. So we do request that Shirley Hatley be reappointed. Our other position, we did have a resignation. So we need to have somebody fill that unexpired term, which would go to 2024. There are 5 applicants, and I think you probably have them all in your packets. The library board did not have a real recommendation when we met earlier. So I'm going to leave it up to you, gentlemen. There are 2 items of note from those applicants. Stephanie Brown is currently on the Friends Board, so she is already serving us very well. And Nicole Ashton has also applied to be on this board, as she did on Becky's board. She might be better fit for Becky's board because she has no library card. She's not a library user, which does not preclude that she would make an excellent board member. So I'm going to leave the choice of which of those 5 applicants up to you. So those are our 2 openings.
All right, with 2 openings, I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Shirley Hatley to a 2nd term and appoint Lindsay Folk to complete a term to end in 2024.
All right, so nomination for Shirley Hatley and Lindsay Folk. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll declare the nominations closed and accept the original motion from Commissioner Allman to appoint Shirley Hatley and Lindsay Folk to the board. Is there a second? From Commissioner Morgan. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, 2020 Single Family Rehabilitation Grant Policy Approval. Presenter, County Manager Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As we've discussed in some other meetings, the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency has awarded the county a $190,000 single-family rehab grant that will be used to assist low and moderate income elderly homeowners with making needed improvements. There's a couple policies that have to be approved by the board as part of our post-approval documentation that we submit to them before they will issue us a funding agreement. And so those 2 policies are in your packet, the procurement and disbursement policy as well as the county's assistance policy. And those policies are very similar. In fact, I don't believe we've made any changes other than to update the assistance policy for what the new regulations are for HUD in terms of how where you qualify based on low to moderate income. But those policies are very similar to the ones you've approved in this, or a board of county commissioners have approved multiple times in the past for single-family rehab grants that the county has received. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I know I had James Luster remain here in case there were any questions, technical questions about the single-family rehab grant that I may not be able to answer. He's certainly able to answer those as well. I'll stop there.
Any questions for the county manager?
Mr. Chairman, this is not for the county manager. It might be for Mr. Luster or the county manager. I read this agreement or this, what do we want to call it?
Assistance policy.
Policy, thank you. Hard. My brain was frozen. I'm thinking about those frozen meals. So. Glad my wife don't serve me frozen meals. So. Couple questions, and it deals with work on the homes. I know this is pretty tight policy when it comes to receiving the funds or when it comes to work on the homes. It states that Stanley County will invite bids only from contractors who are part of an approved contractor registry. And I'm sure, Mr. Luster, you don't have that contractor registry with you, but I guess first part of that question, how many Stanley County contractors are on that list?
We plan to advertise for contractors, send out an advertisement, get a list of contractors in the area, and establish a list. And this will be as we're receiving applications for assistance, and hopefully we'll get that advertisement out within the next week or two.
I'm sure in the past, we've had these grants, similar grants, and we didn't have any contractors locally that got to do the work.
I will say that in the past, we've taken the same approach, Commissioner Lawhon. Mr. Hartzell, I'm trying to think of Mr. Hartzell's last name, out in Locust area has done, what's that, excuse me? I want to say that potentially, I'm not 100%, what's that? Mark possibly, Hartzell? He's done some of the work on CDBG grants we've gotten in the past and single-family rehab. But we have a really difficult time getting contractors from Stanley County to respond to these requests that we put in the paper to get on the registry and be certified to do this work. It's you know, obviously you're going into the rehabbing some of these homes. These are difficult homes to deal with. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of regulations to follow the CDBG guidelines and the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency guidelines, which is what the single family rehab falls under. And so a lot of contractors just don't want to mess with that for, you know, $20,000 or $30,000 worth of work, which won't all be profit, obviously. So I'll be happy to defer to James if he has any more to talk to that. But Mark Hartzell has, or John, or someone from one of the Hartzell contractor from West Stanley has done some of these in the past. But the most recent round, he said he wasn't interested in doing them the last time we did one of these, which I think was 2017 possibly.
And I'll just add one more comment to what Mr. Lucas just said. Most contractors, unfortunately, are just interested in doing new construction. And some similar programs that we worked on in other counties, we've been lucky to get one or two contractors to participate just because there's just limited interest. So we'll do our best. Again, we'll issue an advertisement, reach out to area contractors, and hopefully we'll get a number of bids in. We'll do our best.
I know this policy says that you try to get 3 to 5 approved contractors to bid on the job. What happens when you only get one contractor?
When you get one contractor, you have to go back to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, let them know that you've gone through the bidding process, you've gone through the advertisement process, document your steps, and then typically they'll allow you to move forward with one contractor because they're aware that of the difficulties of these programs in getting contractors, so they allow you to move forward with one.
And are these contractors licensed contractors, or I know there's like a non-licensed contractor, I think it's like they can do up to 30, I think it's 30,000, maybe more than that now, but.
With programs that Central Carolina administers, we typically like to go with licensed contractors only. We'll go with what the county prefers, but we typically go with licensed contractors to, for the obvious reasons.
And what is your average, in the past, what's the average size of contract?
On the ESFR program, it varies anywhere from 5,000 up to 25 to 30,000. Yeah, it just depends on the need that we find when we get out there and who applies. But anywhere from 5,000 to 25 to 30,000.
This day and time, 5,000 would go a long ways.
You're absolutely right. We'll be good to get a heating system in for that amount, and typically that's not enough.
One last question I have is, it says preliminary inspection, Stanley County Rehabilitation Specialist. Who is that?
That will be me. I will be working with a gentleman by the name of Sam Leggett, but that will be my primary responsibility in administering the program.
So you inspect the house as it's being worked on then?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, how would the board like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Lawhon.
I'll make a motion, let me see what it says here. I'll make a motion to adopt the housing assistance policy and the procedures and disbursement policy for the 2020 single resident rehabilitation grant.
A motion from Commissioner Lawhon to accept the presented policies for the 2020 SFR grant, and a second by Commissioner Barbie. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0.
One last comment. Try to get some Stanley County contractors.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best. Thank you.
Item number 8 on the agenda is the NCACC Annual Conference Voting Delegate. I think in all my years here, it always comes down to whose schedule is open on that weekend.
In this case, it's a Thursday because it's a virtual conference, and so it's a virtual meeting. It's a Thursday, I believe, August 6th at 11 a.m. will be the virtual,
I did it last year. I'm not going this year.
and you don't have to go anywhere other than your own house because it is virtual. So
I still don't want to do it.
Thursday, August what?
I believe it's Thursday, August 6th at 11 a.m. is when the virtual business meeting. It's just a business meeting where you'll take action on business items for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jordan.
If Commissioner Jordan can't do it, I don't know. My wife's calendar says we're on vacation that week. I'll do it since it's virtual if Tommy can't. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll kind of hold that open to see how much Tommy objects.
Okay.
He's probably watching us online. Item number 9 on the agenda tonight's the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns about the consent agenda? Not, we'll need a motion to proceed.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion from Commissioner Lawhon to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Furr. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Public comment, we did not have anybody sign up. Is there anybody here to speak tonight? If not, we'll go to board comments and announcements. We're going to start with Commissioner Furr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to just say, ever since I was probably about 4 years old, I've been going to Oakboro and watching the fairs and fireworks and so on, and this is the first year that I've ever known not to be a fair or a carnival. But I know there was a lot of people in the backgrounds that really, really worked hard to put on what did get put on. And I just want to say thank you to them for at least carrying on the tradition of something that I've known my whole life. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Furr. Commissioner Allman?
Just like to ditto Commissioner Furr's remarks, and also thank Melanie for being here today. I've missed our library board meetings. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Morgan?
No comment.
Commissioner Lawhon?
I know Andy sent this out to all of us about the finance department receiving a comprehensive annual financial award for a job well done. And so please pass congratulations on to the finance department and the associates that work there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawhon. Commissioner Barbie?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Mr. Furr. Been going to that little parade and carnival since I was knee-high too. So I'm glad that we had somebody step up and have the Freedom Convoy. That was really nice. And then the fireworks at the end of the day was also great. So I appreciate everybody that worked hard doing all that. Want everybody to be safe. That this is still part of the 4th weekend as far as I'm concerned going on this week. So I want everybody to be safe, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, Commissioner Barbie. I actually don't have any comment tonight. There's no other comments or announcements. We'll seek a motion to adjourn. Motion from Commissioner Morgan, second from Commissioner Allman. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Be adjourned until August 10th.